All right, and welcome to week 2. Awesome job this first week. You had your chapter 1, and if you're not logged in to McGraw-Hill yet and you have any questions, let me know. I can see a few of you haven't logged in, and I also see a few of you are on a trial membership that's going to end around February 1st or February 4th. So please make sure you're staying on top of that. Really, that's your e-textbook. That's where you're doing these quizzes that are worth 15% of your grade, and they really do prepare you for the exam. So I hope you're keeping up on that and able to do it. Your slam poetry is absolutely phenomenal. I am super impressed. I'm gonna make a song, I think, and either use some of them or make up my own because you guys just really inspired me. Awesome job. So hopefully you got the hang of the first chapter and you started on maybe the study guide and you listened to those lectures. So this will be the format. I'll post one of these every week. Because of the length, it's going to be on YouTube, but then I'll post a link in the announcements. With that being said, we're going to jump right into chapter 2, which is all about the biological beginnings. And there are two 40-minute lectures. It's just not me, and I'm going to try and sum it up in 10 minutes or less. So this chapter is all about biology. A couple big ideas here. The evolutionary perspective, looking at natural selection, looking at evolutionary psychology. We're going to talk about genetics. We're going to talk about the interaction of heredity and environment. We're going to talk about prenatal development and birth and the postpartum period. So as you're reading about biology, as you're reading about all of this, have on your mind, are we made because of nurture? Are we made because of nature? Is it our genetics? Is it our environment? Is it a little bit of both? And so as you think about that, I'm going to jump right into this chapter. So if you've never heard of the term natural selection, that is Charles Darwin. He came up with that idea, and it's really the idea that the behaviors and the pieces of us that need to live on do. And if they don't live on, or if you have traits that are undesirable, and you will probably die, and then those traits won't live on. So natural selection is the first big idea here, and that really sparked evolutionary psychology. So evolutionary psychology really emphasizes the importance of adaptation, reproduction, and survival of the fittest in how we shape our behavior. So the next part of this chapter really talks about genetic foundations of development. If you like genetics, if you like biology, you're going to love these next couple of pages. Really looking at DNA, looking at chromosomes, looking at nuclei, and how they live inside of a cell. Big ideas for me here have to do with genes and chromosomes. Not only are they collaborative, but they're enduring. They get passed on from generation to generation, and they carry this genetic makeup that lives inside of us. What's so interesting, and we'll talk about this more, is just how does our environment activate some of those genes? Do some of them stay dormant? Those are questions I want you to think about. You can research, but why do people from the same family end up entirely different? As you're looking through this chapter, definitely know about mitosis, meiosis, and fertilization. Think about dominant versus recessive genes. You can ponder why both of my parents have green eyes and are left-handed, yet I have dark brown eyes and am right-handed. I also want you to think about some of the different chromosome abnormalities, from Down syndrome to Turner syndrome to Fragile X. This chapter really goes in and describes what each of those looks like. There's also gene-linked abnormalities, things like cystic fibrosis, hemophilia, sickle cell anemia. Skim through, keep these in your study guide. These things are going to be important for an exam. The next part of this chapter is behavior genetics. So this is the field that's really wanting to discover what influence of heredity and environment have on an individual person and their human traits and their characteristics. So behavior geneticists study twins, either raised in different households or in the same households, and really look at, okay, here's the environment. How are these genetics that were passed on to these twins being impacted? In this chapter, I think it's important to know heredity-environment correlations as well as the epigenetic view. Watched a really interesting movie once called Gattaca. If you get a chance, watch it. Really just interesting about our genes and go a little bit into epigenetics. Next big topic in here is prenatal development. I want you to know a little bit about this, know about the embryonic period, the fetal period, know the differences in prenatal growth, how we develop from our first trimester to our second trimester to our third trimester, know the timeline of that, know the big ideas that happen, whether it's the beginning development of the spinal cord and the nervous system in those first 4 weeks to 36th to 38th week. As you think about prenatal development, think about the brain and the growth that really starts there. And an important topic for me in this chapter is really the hazards to prenatal development. So think about what are these things that can have a really negative impact on growth and development, whether it's prescription or non-prescription drugs, psychoactive drugs, caffeine, alcohol. Know the repercussions of those things and really specifically how they affect development. And the last big idea here is birth and postpartum. And so know the stages of birth. It's important to know about low birth weight in preterm infants and really what that means, how you would know if someone was low birth weight, being less than 3 to 4 pounds. It's important for you to know in this chapter about bonding and the postpartum period. So as you read through this chapter, this is just a summary of some big ideas. You can watch those long lectures. Please remember to comment on other people's in your discussions. We have another writing this week about genetics. Make sure you're getting that done. And here is today's summary.